As you're well aware, we're living in unprecedented times. Join us now for today's special program.
I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life removing pain. Lord, let my words heal a heart that hurts. I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life mending broken people.
Hello and welcome to another 3ABN Today program. Thank you for joining us as you do each and every day. Thank you for your love and your prayers and financial support of 3ABN as I like to say this every day, as we endeavor to take this great gospel of the kingdom into all the world. Now, there are many ways to support the ministries on this earth, on planet Earth. 3ABN is one of those. We're so thankful, nearly 37 years since the idea came to build a television station to reach the world with an undiluted Three Angels messages, one that would counteract the counterfeit. But there's all kinds of ways, so people send tax-deductible donations to us through finances, but there's also other ways to support 3ABN, and so that's why I have my sister Tammy and brother-in-law Bruce Chance with us here today. We're going to talk about our donations department, and so you may have something in your hand that you say, I don't really need it, but maybe it'll help the work of God. Maybe you don't have the cash, but you say, you know what, I've got this. We'll talk about what it is. Tammy and Bruce are here, but maybe you have something. They always say, Tammy and Bruce, somebody's junk is somebody else's treasure.
Sometimes.
So, right? So you never know. Somebody is always looking for something that you're willing to throw away or maybe have. I've seen that myself. Mm-hmm. So today they're in charge of the donations department at 3ABN. So glad to have you guys here today.
Thank you.
And,
glad to be here.
Sis, you're looking pretty good for, just looking pretty good. I'm not going to bring up her age or anything. Of course, she's a baby compared to the rest of her 4 older brothers.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, we're glad that you're here along with Bruce.
Thank you.
And so the donations department, how long has that been going, Bruce? About?
It's going on 19 years now, Danny.
19?
Yes,
Wow.
19 years.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's amazing. So today we're going to talk to folk about what they can do, and we actually have some items here that people have donated, and you can we'll talk about how we can go to our website and what have you. But before we get into that too much, we have some music today. We have Tim Parton, and we also have Ginger. And I always call her Ginger Lester, but I have to look at her actual name here. It's Pictures, so I've always known her as Ginger Lester. Incredible woman of God, great singer, musician. So I think she and Tim Parton are going to bless us right now with some music.
His name is wonderful. His name is wonderful. His name is wonderful. Jesus, my Lord. He is the mighty King, Master of everything. His name is wonderful. Jesus, my Lord. For he's the great shepherd, the rock of the great shepherd. He's the rock of all ages. Almighty God is He. Oh, bow down before Him, love and adore Him. His name is wonderful, Jesus, my Lord. He is wonderful, Jesus, my Lord.
Amen. Well, if that doesn't put you in the mood for praise and worship, I don't know what does. Thank you, Ginger. Thank you, Tim. And we've been knowing Ginger for a long time, and she's an incredible musician as well, plays instruments. And her brother Brian, of course, the Lester family, a lot of you know them. They are known pretty well around the world. But what she just has such an anointing, doesn't she?
Such a smooth, just mellow voice.
Yeah, it's just one you can sit back and just praise the Lord on. So thank you so much. Of course, Tim Parton, he doesn't hurt the thing at all, does he? Playing the piano. What an incredible musician also. We're so blessed to have Tim as a part of our family here. Well, we're talking today about how you can support 3ABN. There are a number of ways to do it. And it's been 18, 19 years, close to 20. I remember that we got in the mail, someone sent us, was a toaster. And I think it was an electric toaster, but it was one of the first toasters, electric toasters ever made. This lady wrote in and said, and this has been nearly 20 years ago, she was, I think, in her 90s then, and said, when I was a little girl, 10, 11 years old, we got this. So that would have been, we'd figured at the time, early 1900s, I don't know if that'd be 10 to 20, somewhere in there around 1920.
Probably, yeah.
And so when electricity was brand new, and so she said, my mother used to make toast on this, and it means so much to me. But I was watching 3ABN and said, boy, if I just had something, and the Lord basically said to her, what is this you have in your hand? So she said, well, maybe this can be useful. She sent it. And that really, I think, kind of catapulted us into, you know what, so many of us have things that we give away, we throw away, and yet they can be very valuable because there's always somebody wanting to buy something like that.
Right.
And I think that brought quite a bit of money, didn't it, Bruce?
Yes, it did. I think it did.
Yeah, it would have, because it was rare. Now, talk about some of the things, I know it's been many years, but some of the things that people donate to us, or they can donate, that is tax deductible. And again, maybe it's, you ask the Lord, what is this? You know, he says, what is this you have in your hand? So Lord, what is it I have that maybe I don't need? And I'm willing to send it to 3ABN, and whatever the appraisal value is, you'll get a tax receipt. Is that right?
That's correct. And many of the items that we use is, that we can really use is, of course, anything with gold in it. Silver items, sterling silver items like dinnerware and that kind of thing. Platinum, diamonds, jewelry. I think there's a ring up here, a wedding, and it's a diamond ring. And people, as they come into the church, and a lot of newcomers come to the church, they get rid of their jewelry and they send it to us, and we turn it into money for the Lord's work.
Okay.
And there's many items that, you know, I don't have time to mention all the items that we get and use, but those are some of the top items that we can really do well with. Other things is vehicles, RVs, china, real estate, musical instruments like we have here. That's just a few of the items that we can really use.
I remember, probably been about 10 years ago, somebody sent this old fan, and it was just like on a pedestal fan, and it was rusted and everything, and like, well, what are we going to do here with this old rusted fan? And it ended up being like from 1930s or something like that, and I think we got several $1,000s out of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something. But you know, a lot of because of the internet now, so many things that were rare is now easy to find because of the internet. But, so you got to have stuff that's pretty special, just like the toaster and just like this fan. Things like that that are really hard to come by. You can't just find anywhere on the internet. Yeah, they're rare. And so that's the things we can really do well with.
Everything old is rare, including people.
Yeah, I'm rare, yeah.
We're getting more, you're getting more rare all the time, my age, so I understand
Does that make you worth more?
You know, depends who it's to, who you're talking about.
Are you
Your
saying,
kids and grandkids,
are
maybe.
you saying you might be an antique?
I am an antique.
Close to
Anytime
it.
you hit that 70, you're definitely an antique. But hey, still going for the Lord
That's
so
right.
far, right?
That's
So we're
right.
not willing to give up yet and quit. We're willing to keep going.
That's
now,
right.
some of the things over the years you mentioned, people have had motorhomes. They've donated to us. Vehicles, all different kinds. We've had some really old vehicles, but like musical instruments, there's been several of especially ladies who maybe their husbands have passed away and he had an old guitar, whether it's an old Sears guitar or whether it be a Martin or a Gibson, and it's just sitting there for years, and they don't have heirs, and the kids don't want them, and they say, hey, let's send those to you. And a lot of those things are worth many thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what you have there. Is that a little clarinet or something?
No, that's a little flute.
Flute?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
A German-made flute.
Yeah.
And but we get saxophones, we get dobros. I mean, we get everything you can imagine musically. And of course, most all of the guitars that we get comes to you, the expert with guitars. You know a lot more about them than I do, and so we have you to market those for us if we can.
Yeah, we sometimes take them to Gruen Music down in Nashville because they're the foremost experts in the world, and we get appraisals on them.
Exactly.
And then we're able to sell them. But tell us how that internet works, because a lot of people don't understand. In other words, let's say this item's right here. You got the silverware.
Yeah.
Now, how do you find out what it's worth, and how do you reach people so you have a big audience? In other words, years ago we would have put this in the West Frankfurt Daily American when it was one, and people around West Frankfurt would have seen it.
Right.
Now you literally can show it to the world, right?
Right. Now we
So
put it
how
on.
does that work?
On eBay. That's where we put most stuff. We have buyers that come that know he's got certain things that will come here. But for the internet right now, it's eBay, and that goes to the whole world. And so
you do what? You take pictures?
You take pictures. You you list it. You put either an auction price, and it's going to auction, or you put a buy it now price, and that's the price it is. And then that way people can bid on it, or they can do a buy it now, where they can just pay the full price right then, and we ship it to them.
Okay.
And the one thing about the internet, I might add, is it's a great research tool for us. Of course, we can't know everything about everything that comes in, so we, lean back on the eBay a lot. And
Tammy said you knew everything about everything.
I hate to disappoint her. But
he knows a lot.
There's a lot to know just with the coins alone, and keeping up with the gold and silver bullion prices. That's a lot right there. But no, I don't know everything. I wished I did, but there's so many things that we get in that we do lean back to the to eBay or the internet and research, and we can find, usually, unless it's a very rare item, we can find several just like it, and then we can average those prices out what they sold for, and that's what we call a current market value price.
Okay. Now, like this, is this coins?
It is. That's
If I can reach over and grab this thing.
That's a book, and I think the top row there is.
I don't know if we.
Yeah, I think.
Each one of these are different kinds of coins, and it tells you what they are.
Yeah.
What years.
Yeah, that's a flying eagle at the top. I don't know
Okay.
if the
So somebody donated this.
that book, and
this
I'm
whole book
sorting
of
those
coins.
out and selling those individually to get the
Okay.
most we can out of them.
Okay. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And people have something like this.
Those are the old Indian head cents.
Yeah, that's what Indian head cents. all
Indian
of
head
it.
cents.
That's really neat. Now, this happens to be a picture. We don't know if we can certify it yet, the actual signatures, but who's on here? Let's see, Mickey Mantle. Is that Bill Martin? Ted?
That's Billy Martin.
Billy Martin. Over here is
DiMaggio.
Joe
Joe
DiMaggio.
DiMaggio.
And that's Whitey Ford in the center.
Whitey Ford in the
That's
middle. He didn't sign it.
He didn't sign
But
it.
we think this could be, we don't know, right? We haven't been able to
That's
certify
correct.
this, so we would have to get this one certified to know
Yeah.
if it's really, because of course it'll make it worth a lot more money, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Getting those guys to baseball fans and all of that. Now, also you have some coins.
If people, I might add too,
Yeah.
if people send in memorabilia like that's signed, if it has a COA, certificate of authenticity,
Yeah. Oh,
that will
yeah.
command what it's worth if they have that with it.
Okay.
So,
All right.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, no, the coins like here on top, I've seen these plastic bags are on top of them. Are those old coins, or are they just rare coins, or both?
Both. In some instances, the Kennedy $50 is not rare, but it's uncirculated. But that's some old. Once again, there's a Liberty nickel there, I think, on the end, and there's a couple of Indian head pennies, and there's a seated dime there, 1877 seated dime. That is stamped CC, which is the mint mark.
Yeah.
That stands for Carson City, which is why it makes it rare.
Okay.
That boggles my mind that we got coins from 1870 and 1860.
Yeah.
How you think, how could they still be around?
And look good.
Yeah, and look good.
Yeah, some of them look really good, basically unused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
But I mean, these are all from you. These are from you folks. You're sending things in, and this helps us tremendously. And again, maybe it's something you don't want to sell, or you don't have the market to sell. You don't know how to do it. Maybe you don't know very many people. When you send it to 3ABN, you not only get a tax receipt for it, but then we make sure that they put it on the internet, on eBay, as she says. And Bruce has people who come with, it has to do with coins that he works with, professionals, and so we're able to make sure we get the most for the value of the gift that you give.
Right.
One interesting story is, I don't know all the details, but we have a Red Skelton painting that was supposed to have been painted by Red Skelton. It's a clown painting. And he's been working on trying to authenticate it with the Red Skelton Foundation. And he's been dealing with Mrs. Skelton. She's still alive.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, in her 90s. And
Congratulations.
he's going through her manager or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, she's still alive, and she's still in charge of that foundation. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. I guess I didn't tell Tammy, but it has been authenticated.
Oh, has
Okay.
it?
It is authentic, and we have a COA on it, certificate
Great.
of authenticity.
Really? On the
That's
Red
sent back.
Skelton painting?
On the Red Skelton
Yeah.
painting.
He was actually pretty good, wasn't he?
He was great. He was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good painter, too.
Oh yeah. Actually, he turned out to be actually a well-known painter.
Yeah.
You know, of course, he did all the clowns that he portrayed in his
Yeah.
skits, but
Yeah.
But she is the one that authenticated it.
Okay.
So
All right.
Yeah.
we thought
Well,
that was kind of neat.
Yeah, I was big, growing up, of course, in the 50s and 60s. Red Skelton was on, his Clem Cadet Hopper, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Well, in the 70s,
Laugh.
I'll take time out for a little story. I don't know if I
Right.
told you guys, but in the 70s, I think it was like 75 or 6, I was in Berrien Springs, Michigan. Melody was about, 6, 7 years old. She had watched him on TV, and they said, Red Skelton's going to be at Notre Dame. And so from Berrien Springs, that's a 30-minute drive or something. It's not that far. So I said, well, we're going to go down there. I was shocked. I mean, people came out by the thousands.
Oh, yeah.
Because by then he was probably off the air for his regular TV shows, but everybody just loved him. He's the kind of guy that you love, very patriotic. If you ever listen to him do the Pledge of Allegiance, it'll bring tears to your eyes.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
this guy was what you call a real patriot, loved his country. And so Melody wanted to see, so I took her, and so we watched him. And I remember one of the first things he said, boy, the people in South Bend, Indiana, they're so friendly. He said, I got off the airport, I went to the park, and he said, somebody yelled, Red Skelton. And he said, people just started crowding around me wanting autographs. He said they were so nice, I kind of felt bad I had yelled it.
that's Red Skelton.
Yeah, he had brought attention to his own name. So then the crowd were leaving. There's thousands of people. So I tell Melody, if we go out this front door, honey, we're going to be let's just go around. So I went down almost into the locker room area, trying to do a shortcut to get out. And just as I was going, the door opened in the basement, and guess who was there? Red Skelton. And nobody knew he was going to be there. We didn't know he was going to be there, so there were several other people, so probably 10 or 15 people. So they all jumped in front, and they said, "Oh, Red, can we get an autograph?" And he said, "Sure." So he, again, there's 10, 15 of us. So Melody's like, "Dad, get his autograph. I want his autograph." I said, "Honey, I don't have any paper whatsoever," because he said, "If you've got the paper," so people would hand it. So I reached my pocket. All I had was a $1 bill. So I tapped the guy in front of me. I said, "Would you hand this up to Mr. Skelton, to Red Skelton?" And he said, "Sure." So Red Skelton, he took the paper and he signed it to, people, and they'd say, "Here, thank you very much," and, "Here, thank you." So he looked and he said, "Whose dollar is this?" I said, "That's mine." I says, "For my little girl." He said, "Thank you, I appreciate it." And he put it in his pocket. And then he went on signing. Melody was looking at him like, "What? Is he going to keep our dollar bill?" So then he pulled it out and he said, "Oh, I guess you want this back." I said, "Well, I think she would appreciate this." So then he signed it and gave it back to us. But what a great guy. And this painting, so we actually have that.
We have a real
There you
painting.
have it.
Okay, so if you're interested in Red Skelton paintings, there you go.
Yep.
So
There's one thing you were talking about, maybe if a widow has their husband's guitar, this and that. It's very sentimental, and it's something you want to hang on to. And I understand that. I have some of my dad's things, but in the end, this old world's going to pass away.
That's right.
And if you can turn it in and let us make money to support the ministry, to support spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ to the world, it's great.
Absolutely.
It's great.
yeah,
We're going to have to let go of everything.
absolutely. Now there are some things, and I think a point you had said for me we wanted to make was, if you have something in doubt, you're not sure, call first. Ask for Bruce. Call donation department, because there are things such as like clothes that we really don't want sending clothes. We're not in a position to handle clothes. There's some other things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you definitely, if you're in doubt, call. Like in general, people have sent maybe a few thousand records, like older records. Most of those wouldn't be valuable, but if they were signed, if it was an Elvis Presley record and it's signed by Elvis Presley, it's worth some money.
Right.
If it's an old softball, it's not worth much, but if it's signed by the king in his court, then authenticated, then it's definitely worth something. So, in other words, there are things that we can't use. Anything else in general that jumps out that maybe people send a lot that we're not able to use, or should they just call when in doubt?
Yeah, the best case scenario is to just call and let's talk about it and see if we can use it, or if we can't, and then spare them the cost of sending the item, just sending the item. So, we can talk about it and they can get a hold of me through email or call on the phone. Area code 618-627-4651, extension 3078, and that will bring you right to me, and I'll talk to you.
We've also mentioned this in the past several times, but it's good to repeat. Sometimes when people send something, it's been appraised, jewelry, whatever, it's been appraised. And they say, well, the appraisal is worth, says it's worth this much. Well, what the appraisal is for replacement value, like for fire or theft.
Insurance.
Yeah, and for insurance. That's not the fair market value. The fair market value is going to be quite a bit lower than what the appraisal is, and we like people to know that up front.
No, that's a very good point, because I remember years ago somebody sent a ring that they said, oh, it's worth $25,000. But really, when we really had people look at it, put it up for sale, I think $5,000 was the most, and they're like, but it appraised at this. Well, jewelry is one of those things that has a huge markup.
Absolutely.
As soon as you walk out of the store, it's worse than cars, automobiles.
It's worse.
You get a new one. You walk out, then it's worth very little if you try to give it back. So again, those are type of things you need to talk to Bruce. You got an appraisal on this. You send him a picture of it or give him information. He probably can get an idea what it would be worth at least. But you can pretty well be assured that it's not going to be anywhere near what your appraisal for insurance might be.
Right. And one thing people can be assured of, we're going to get the most that we possibly can out of it. We're going to do the research, and we're going to do the legwork to make sure that we get, and we pray over each one of these items that comes in. So.
What I really like is we had, one time we had somebody that pulled a trailer truck up here, and it was full of every kind of doll that you can imagine.
I remember
a lot
that.
of them was not worth much, but there was old Barbies galore and old Barbie clothes, some of them still in their packages from 1959, 1960. 59 was when the first Barbie came out. And I know that because I loved Barbies.
I know. And Chatty Cathy. Yeah, with a bunch of boys, we weren't used to anything but baseballs, bats, and gloves. And then Tammy comes along, there's Chatty Cathy. I don't know if Mrs. Beasley maybe was after you. But
that was
whatever.
after me, yeah.
That was after you, but at least Barbies.
But we had these Barbies, some still in the box, the 1959 box.
Wow.
And just never touched. And we had hundreds of them. And we ended up, I don't know, I want to say around 17,000, 18,000 that we got out a lot of these Barbies and their clothes. I mean, their little clothes still in the package, their outfits would go for $150, $160 on the internet.
Wow. Isn't that amazing?
It is. So I love to get old Barbies and her friends, Midge and Ken and all that when they're from the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So many people keep that. Like you say, after a while, you start looking, you reevaluate life and things. And that's I mean, I'm talking honestly, Yvonne and I was talking about the other day, since we just a few weeks ago, I hit the 70, you look at your future different than you did before.
Sure.
Because before, well, I'm planning on what? Now
Right.
you look and say, I'm planning on what? I was thinking about I should replace the siding on the back of my house. It's decent, but I thought I should replace it. And then I said, for what? It's probably going to last longer than I am, so why bother with it? You think, I remember my brother once said he went to, after he hit 70, he needed new shingles on his roof. So the guy said, now here we have the 30-year warranty, and said, we have the 20. And he said, well, is that all my choice? He said, well, they have a 10-year. He said, that's all I need. I'm 70 plus years old.
Well, actually, he asked Bruce, he said, what do you think this needs to be replaced? And Bruce said, well, you don't need the 20 or 30. He said, well, you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
He said, I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do think differently. So some of you at home, maybe you've had things for many years, but really what good is it going to do? And so we're just saying, you pray about it. You ask the Lord, you say, what is this I have in my hand? It takes us back to Fonda Summers. Fonda Summers, I think she was about 77 years old, in her 70s, mid-70s, in 1984, November. And right after I was impressed to build a television station to reach the world, I think Larry Welch at the time was a literature evangelist. He had come in as someone from the area that Kenny met in a lumberyard, and so took Bible studies, and Larry joined the church, so he became literature evangelist, and a card filled out by Fonda Summers that lived out east of West Frankfort out towards Thompsonville area. So he went to visit her, then introduced her to my mother. My mother invited her to prayer meeting, and so the very week after I'm impressed to build a television station to reach the world, I go to prayer meeting, which I didn't always do. Still don't always, I'm sorry, but we try when we can. But so I went to prayer meeting, and there was only a handful of people there at the time. I don't know if there's a dozen, and I was so excited. I said, the Lord's impressed me to build a television station to reach the world, blah, blah, blah. Fonda Summers was there. First time she'd ever been in an Adventist church, a Methodist Christian lady, wonderful lady. So 2 nights later, my mother calls me Friday night. She said, you remember Fonda Summers that came to church Wednesday night? I said, yes. She said, she called me, and she said she went home and she prayed. She said, Lord, I'd like to do something for those people, but I don't have anything. I don't have any money, and I think it's your will that, Christian television station sounds like a great idea. I really want to do something, but I just don't have anything. And she said, I'll never forget, the Lord impressed me. What is this you have in your hand? She said, well, I don't have anything. I mean, I got a few acres of property. She said, and I don't use property towards the back end. Maybe I could give a couple acres of property. So my mother said, Fonda Summers said, and I'm like, well, where is it? I had been talking to Clarence Larson, who was an engineer down at Marion TV station, who said he was on his, back then I think they were new Apple Commodore 64 or something computer, and he was looking for ways to do uplinking, which no one in the area did, which means you could send signals from Earth to satellite, 22,300 miles to space, then back down into the 10 and 12 foot satellite dishes. And he said, there's so many microwave interferences from, he called it Maubelle, Illinois, like phone companies and others. There's so many interferences, there's very few spots. But he said out towards Thompsonville, he said about 6-8 miles, there's an area out there that looks like it would be free. So I asked my mom, where's this property? She said, well, it's out by north of Thompsonville. And I said, really? So we go out there, and of course, the long story short, many of you know, Fonda Summers gave us 2 acres in the back of her property. That 2 acres, when we got Scientific Atlanta from Georgia to come up to see if it would work, where we could uplink and send microwave signals 22,300 miles to space, they said it will work, but at that 2 acres, you even had to move it. We had to move it to the east side of the property because it wouldn't have worked there would have been interferences. So that 2 acres, she said, Lord, he said to her, what is this you have in your hand? Mm-hmm. And she said, well, I don't have it, just as 2 acres. Look what that 2 acres of property turned into.
Exactly.
Then turned into a beacon on a hill out in a little bean field, former bean field, out in a community of less than 600 people, and her a mile or 2 out of town from that, and was able to literally send signals up to satellite all across North America. And then eventually from that same spot in 95, I think it was, we put in our first dish, KU band dish that would go to Europe. So when Mark Finley did the 1990 Net 95 and 96, we, 3ABN, we brought people, translators from all around the world, different countries around the world, and built little booths for them in our buildings, and they translated as this went live all the way across to Europe, down to Romania, and to Russia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Germany, all of these places from this little spot. What is this you have in your hand? Happened to be the exact spot the Lord wanted and designed, and for this to go up. So you may be the same thing. What is this you have in your hand? Maybe it's something you don't feel that's worth anything, but I will guarantee you that it is. You pray about it and say, Lord, what would you have me to do? And then be sure you give us a call, email us, text us, call Bruce, and we'll find out what it is. And if we can use it for the Lord's honor and glory, we definitely will do it.
That was such a miracle in itself that this woman who visited the church for the first time was convinced of what you were saying and what could she do to help when, I'm sorry, some of our own denomination was against it all the way around. And here's this woman who doesn't know any of us, but she was impressed immediately that she wanted to help. That was a miracle.
And it was, and she said later, I'd forgotten about it, but my husband and I had owned this property for years, and we thought about selling it. She said, I thought about selling it after he passed away, but she said, I remember years ago that I had a dream, and I dreamed that the back acreage, which is what she ended up giving us, she said had a fence around it, and the gate was open, and the most beautiful fatted cattle came from all directions and filled up that property. And all these years, I've never known what that meant. Now, she said, I know what that means. That represents people coming in from all walks of life to find the good news of salvation through 3ABN. And so here all these years later, Fonda Summers is asleep in Jesus, but how many people will have come to know Jesus and the truth by what she was able to do, by simply listening to the Lord. What is this you have in your hand?
That gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Out of that dream. But yeah, it was all meant to be, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Bruce, some of the things you mentioned that we do accept and work out good, as you mentioned, coins or gold or silver, platinum, any things like that, jewelry, silverware like this. Now, is that China over there?
Yeah.
Beautiful, whatever. So quite a few. Tell me about that.
We get quite a few. Actually, Tammy does the china, so I'll let her
Yeah,
talk
we
about
get
that.
a lot of sets of china, and if it's, I can't remember all the names off the top of my head because I'm getting old too, but
Okay.
Mikasa,
Nortaki.
yeah, Nortaki, Mikasa, china.
England.
We do good with that, and old china that's in really good condition, not chipped or anything. That's, you know, maybe from the 40s or 50s. You have a lot of older people that got it when they got married, you know, back in 40. And if they're not chipped in good condition, that can be worth quite a bit of money.
Now, when people come here to visit, can they look at some of this stuff that you have?
Sure, absolutely. We usually open our store, actually, we call it a store outside of our offices there, but we usually open it during camp meeting time. Of course, during the COVID, we haven't had a camp meeting, so with the people that come to camp meeting get a chance to come.
The Lord willing, this fall, we hope to have camp meeting here. And we want you all to
Well, we
come
plan
and join
on
us.
it. We're planning on it.
So some of you can bring things you want to get rid of, and some of you can take things back
Yeah.
that you've been looking for.
We've had people, we've had beautiful people come and they donated something maybe 6 months before, and they come and they buy it again.
Well, now that's good. I like that.
And they say when we get done with it, we'll send it again.
I was going to say,
yeah,
a
we'll
lot
donate
of
again.
people buy things from the store and say, you know, this is just going to be returned to you in just
Yeah.
a short
We
period
just
of time.
want to help, you
Yeah.
know, just want to help.
No, that's great.
It's just a great way to support the ministry.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Absolutely. Tammy, you have a little testimony. You've been going through some things yourself, physical things. Tell us a little about that.
Back in November, I went to the dermatologist about something completely different, and I had this little thing on my leg, and it didn't look anything like what you would think skin cancer would look like. It looked like maybe eczema or something, just a little spot like this. And it had been years I'd had it. I hadn't paid any attention to it. He kept telling me the doctor needed to look at it, and I said, it's not nothing, it's eczema. And so I knew the doctor because I had sold a puppy to him. And so we were just talking, and I just happened to look down. He was looking at something on my face, and I just happened to look down. I said, oh, by the way, I said, is this eczema? I said, I've had it for 4 or 5 years. I said, I've put stuff on it, doesn't go away. And he took one look, and he said, that is skin cancer. And I said, what? I was just so taken aback, and I said, you're kidding me. And he said, I'm not kidding you. And he said, we're going to do a biopsy right now. And he also spotted one on my face that he thought was, and he did a biopsy on both places. This one was fine. The leg came back skin cancer, and it was a very, very large tumor. And so when he told me, he called me and he said, it is cancer, and he said, we've got to take it out. And like you said, things change as you get older, and it was, I don't feel like I panicked in any kind of way, or, oh no, what am I going to do? I just said, Lord, your will be done. I mean, whatever happens, because it had been there a long time. And so, you know, I'm not one to go to the doctor too much. And so I didn't know if it had spread or whatever, but I felt good about it. I knew the doctor personally. I felt good about his abilities. And he said, I promise you, I will get it. I promise you. And I said, okay, you know. And so I just kind of turned it over to God, and he operated and he took the tumor out. They sent it downstairs to the pathology, and he looks at it and determines if they've got all the edges of it to make sure. You might have to go back in and do more. But it came back that he had gotten it all and some plus, and so they sewed me back up, and I've got a big old ugly scar, but I don't care. I'm too old to worry about a scar. But I just thank the Lord for it, because shortly after I went back for him to check my leg, and the doctor, there was another doctor, and she said, we just dealt with somebody that had exactly what you had, except it was on her face. And she said she brought her daughter in for some acne or something, and she said I kept looking at that thing on her face, and she said it was just little scratch like, and she said I didn't like the looks of it, and she said, can we do a biopsy? And the lady said yes, and she said it came back exactly the kind that you had. And she said it had already spread. She had had it like 5 years, and she said it had spread to her bones, and she said we took it out, she took chemo. She only lived long enough to see her daughter to graduate from high school.
Wow.
And so I would just said, thank you, Lord. And I was just very, very thankful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't take anything for granted nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Every day is a gift.
Every day is a
Every day
gift.
the Lord gives us, it's a gift, so we need to make the best of it. And remember, we're here for a reason, and that's to serve the Lord. And people say, well, what can I do? I'm not a preacher, I'm not a teacher, I don't sing, I don't do whatever. It's your own personal testimony. Ellen White says is your greatest asset is your own personal testimony of what God has done for you. Nobody can talk you out of that. Nobody can tell you it's not true, because that's between you and the Lord. So the devil didn't give it, and the devil didn't take it, can't take it away. So for us, it's a matter of evangelism, serving the Lord. Many of you do it many ways. Others who can't go, you help financially. Thank you for your love, for your prayers, and financial support. And some of you do it through our wills and trust department. And so we have that. That's helped tremendously over the years to keep 3ABN going and growing. This donations department, the same thing. When you send what may be your junk, or sometimes you say, I really like this, it does have great sentimental value to me, but I want to see it put to the Lord's work. So when you do that, as Bruce said, he's going to get the very most that he can. He's had a lot of years experience doing this now, so we're making sure that everybody knows about it, because when you put it on eBay, you put it on the internet, then people literally from around the world can look at it. So if you don't know what something's worth, you put it up long enough and you watch people start bidding, and finally somebody just wants it better than somebody else, more than somebody else.
Right.
But we've seen that too with old cars. A lot of people say, well, I got this old car, it's 40 years old, but it's just been in the barn. My husband drove it. I don't drive it anymore. It's in nice shape. Call Bruce, let him know about it. Again, instruments, whether it's guitars or violins or mandolins or any kind of dobros, as he said, any cello. We had a cello that was donated that was like 100 years old.
Yeah.
And I think that brought a few $1,000s. Chris Wilkinson, the Nashville String Machine, and who also has done a lot of projects with 3ABN. I think she put us in touch with cello player, and they said, man, this thing's a great instrument.
Yeah.
And so they bought it and put the money again right into the Lord's work. So,
Well, this is something that's it's kind of off the subject, but it's kind of on my heart, if you don't mind. Sometimes I know people, as well as myself, sometimes you get, and especially as you get older, you think, well, I'm not much good. I can't do this, or I can't help somebody like I wanted to, or whatever. And the Lord can work with you and use you in all aspects, in all works of life. And I have a small side business, and I have these girls that work for me, high school age girls. And honestly, I guess we were sheltered. I'm naive. I never knew the dysfunction that goes on in families. The problems, the divorces, the challenges over the children. And some of these girls come from those backgrounds. And it's slowly evolved into them coming to me with their problems. Some of them have been verbally abused, things like that, and they come and they're crying, and they come to me. And none of them have been raised in church. And so that's my opportunity, and to talk with them, to pray with them. And somehow it's nothing to do with me. It's God working through me, that it has evolved into, it's like our house, as my son Trent said, our house is a hub where these kids are coming and going all the time, and talking about things. And I try to help where I can. And I try to talk to them about the Lord. And many times when these problems come up, I say, well, this is why we have the Bible. This is why we have the 10 Commandments, because it's not for God to be happy. It's to make us happy if we abide by these things. If you go against this, then things blow up in your face, and this is what happens. And so I feel like that it has turned into another sort of ministry with young people. And 5 years ago, I could never have imagined, I wouldn't even thought I'd want to do that, with young people. But somehow it's turned into that, and I love these girls, like they're my kids. And they know that, and they respect that, because, I try to show them the love. But I talk to them about church, I talk to them about the Lord, I talk to them about what God wants with their life. And I just wanted to share that, because there's many different ways that you can do ministry. When there's a lot of things you can't do, but there's many ways that you can do. much outreach.
Yeah, and that's really good because so many times folks who work full-time in ministry, you really feel like you've done your job.
Right.
But if we're working in ministry, we're getting paid for it.
Right.
You know, and then we say, oh, well, after 6 o'clock, I'm out of ministry. You know, I don't need to do anything for the Lord. I work for him all day long, whether I'm running a camera or directing, or whether I'm in the office work or doing finances or on air, whatever I'm doing. But really, this responsibility is while we're waking is 24/7 whenever, and people that we meet, it's our privilege and our responsibility to introduce them to the Lord, and that's a good thing. Things like this and your side business, I won't go into it for various reasons, but the puppies you decided to get into, and so the Lord has blessed that tremendously. But, you know, so all of us have a responsibility to do what we can do for the Lord. Some of you are saying, I'd like to give some, I don't have anything. Why don't you just remember to pray for 3ABN, because we are on the front lines, and people, after all these years, are still people who resent 3ABN, people who are anti-3ABN, but you know what? I'm encouraged by that, because as I've said for so long, if everybody loved me and everybody loved 3ABN and everything I did and everything you do, we must be not doing something right, because the Bible says all who live godly shall suffer persecution.
Right.
So when you're giving truth to a lost and dying world, you're going to have people object to it. You're going to have people offended by it. You're going to have people who become your enemies because they don't want that. They don't want the truth going out. The devil doesn't want it going out. So what I would encourage you to do, for those of you, you say, well, I don't have anything I can give. We appreciate your prayers. We covet your prayers, because for those on the front lines, your Greg and Jill and all the others out on the front lines, that the devil really is out to steal, kill, and to destroy. And you too. He hates all of us that carry the name Christian. But we all can work together. We all can help. Some of you can give financially. Some of you can't. Some of you can donate things like this. That's great too. So Bruce, we just have a few more minutes. What else would you want to talk about here?
I'd like to mention, thanks to 3ABN CFO Jason Bergman, we now have a new updated computer program system that's state of the art. And now what it does for people, the donors, is now that we can get those receipts back out to them very quickly once we receive their donation. Whereas before it was a period of time before we could get them back. And I'd also like to add, the people that do have donated items that has appraisals, they should use those appraisals for their income tax purposes if they have an appraisal on the item.
Instead of what we sold for.
Instead of what we sold for. It would be to their advantage to do it that way.
Okay. Okay. What else? Anything you want for folks to know at home?
How the gold prices and the silver,
Yeah.
it's spot prices,
Yeah.
so they can change.
Well, the spot prices change, you know, all the time. Even as we've had this program, they're changing. But gold has been up fairly high for the last few months, and it actually got up to $1,900 per ounce last month. So, you know, and the silvers went up too. So, those items that comes up, I think silver's right at about, well, we're doing this program about $26 an ounce. So silver and gold items is always welcomed. And while it's, you know, if you have these items right now, it's the time to get rid of them. So.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing, because also people have donated stock. We have a lot of people who call us and usually talk to Jason Bergman, their CFO, about stock. Maybe they have it in different companies, and they say, you know, we don't really want this anymore. And so we want to give it to 3ABN. 3ABN's able to sell that at the market values and use that. So
I take a lot of those calls and transfer them to Jason. So there are quite a few calls that comes in with stock and the way things are now. You know.
Absolutely. And also from our wills and trust department, you know, charitable gift annuities. You can make tax deductible, you know, gifts to 3ABN, yet you can receive income from that till you die. And so depending what your age is, how much interest, but it's more interest than you get at a bank by far, because you're hardly getting anything at a bank. So when you hit 70 plus, there all of a sudden your interest is more. So there's things that you can do, and you don't want to pay capital gains on certain things. Of course, we're all going by the laws, and so abiding by that, but there are certain advantages, tax advantages, that we can take advantage of that are legal. And so we're happy to talk to you about that. So if you call here and talk to our Wills and Trust Department, or you want to talk to Bruce about some of the other things that you have, we're very happy for that.
And again, the time is so short. We've never seen the world in the mess that it's in today. And eventually, this won't be worth anything, any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But right now, we can turn it into money to support the ministry.
Yeah, this world's gone more haywire in the last 5 years in my life than I have to remember all the rest of my life together. My mom used to say, you might remember, when things would go beyond her control or something shock her, she'd say, you know what? I just feel like everybody in the world is crazy except me and thee, and sometimes even thee. So we're kind of getting to that point now. It's like you turn on news, no matter what channel, it's like, this is crazy stuff going on.
I look at him, I say, people's gone mad. They've gone mad.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah. And that's where we are. We're towards the end of time.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, once again, we thank you for your love and prayers and financial support. We're going to go to a news break, and then we'll be back after that for a closing thought.
If you'd like to write to our 3ABN Donation Center, the address is Post Office Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois, 62896. Again, 3ABN Donation Center, Post Office Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois, 62896. You can call 618-627-4651, extension 3078. That's 618-627-4651, extension 3078. You can email bruce.chance@3abn.org. That's bruce.chance@3abn.org. Or go to our website at 3abn.tv.
I can't believe our time is just about all gone for today. That hour went quickly, didn't it?
It went quick, yes.
Very quickly.
So we've been talking here with Tammy and Bruce Chance about our donations department and how you can help. If you have something, what is this you have in your hand the Lord is impressing, you can donate to 3ABN and to get a tax-deductible receipt for your love gift, and then 3ABN is able to put it on eBay. But let's say somebody wants to go, 3ABN has an eBay store, right?
Right.
Okay. How do I go? Maybe you want to get something off of eBay, not just give, but get. How do we do that?
You go to 3abn.org, which is the 3ABN website, and you click on the Donation Center button at the bottom of the page, and then when that comes up at the top, there's a link that says eBay store, and you click on that, and you're there.
And it shows everything we have.
Yes.
To offer?
Yes.
That's the easiest way to get to it,
Yeah.
Okay.
is to go to 3abn.org.
A lot of these folk will want the easiest way like me. That's what I
Me
want to
too.
do.
That's the way I am.
Easiest way I do it is ask my grandkids to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they know more about it than I do. So one more time, if you want to go to the eBay store to see what 3ABN has, because if you're looking for something, maybe we already have it, and you might as well get it from us, right?
Right.
Or somebody else.
Sure.
And so
So you go
one
to
more time,
3abn.org.
go to our website,
Right.
3ABN.
Scroll down to the bottom. It says donations. You click on donations, and when that page comes up, it says 3ABN store at the top.
Okay, well, that's fairly simple. That's exactly what we need. Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you all for being here today, Tammy and Bruce, and for the many, many years of service that you're doing. And we want to thank you at home again for your love, your prayers, financial support of Three Angels Broadcasting Network. So remember, you can call us 618-627-4651, extension
3078.
3078, and ask for Bruce. Hey, our time is all gone for today. Until we see you next time, may the Lord richly bless you abundantly more than you could ever ask or think.